Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Garima Jain from Rajasthan Technical University Kota. Today we are going to talk on module Performance Appraisal Methods from the paper Human Resource Management. After completing this module, the students will be able to understand the methods of performance appraisal, having the knowledge of advantages and disadvantages of the various performance appraisal methods and the reasons of the failure of performance appraisal techniques. Introduction. While designing an appraisal program, numerous performance appraisal methods are used. Various methods have been devised to measure the quantity and quality of employees' job performance. Each of the methods could be effective for some purposes for some organization. The methods they have to be accepted according to the needs of the organization. Now we shall be discussing as to what are the methods of performance appraisal. Numerous methods have been designed to appraise the performance of an employee. Strauss and Sales have classified appraisal methods which are widely used into two categories, that is, traditional methods and modern methods. While traditional methods they lay emphasis on the rating of the individual's personality traits such as initiative, dependability, drive, creativity, integrity, intelligence, leadership, potential, etc. The modern methods, on the other hand, place more emphasis on the evaluation of work results, that is, job achievements, than the personal traits. Modern methods tend to be more objective and worthwhile. Here we shall be telling as to what all are the traditional methods. Yeah, which are the traditional methods? Like ranking method, paired comparison method, grading method, forced distribution method, forced choice method, checklist method, critical incidents method, graphic scale method, essay method, field review method, and the confidential report. Here we shall be telling as to what all are the modern methods of doing performance appraisal. Assessment centers, behaviorally anchored rating scales, human resource accounting method, 360-degree appraisal method, which is a very common type nowadays, and the management by objectives. Traditional methods. In that, the first is the ranking method. It is the oldest and the simplest form, systematic method of performance appraisal, in which an employee is compared with all others for the purpose of placing order of worth. The employees are ranked from the highest to the lowest or from the best to the worst. In doing this, the employee is who is on the highest on the characteristic being measured and also the one who is the lowest are indicated. Then the next highest and the next lowest between the next highest and lowest until all the employees to be rated have been ranked. Thus, if there are 10 employees to be appraised, there will be 10 ranks from 1 to 10. However, the greatest limitation of this method is that it does not tell us how much better or worse one is than another. Then the task of ranking the individuals is difficult when a large number of employees are rated. It is very difficult to compare one individual with others having varying behavioral traits. To remedy these defects, the paired comparison method of performance appraisal has been evolved. The paired comparison method. In this method, as the name suggests, we have to compare. That is, each employee is compared with every other employee, one at a time. The number of times the employee is compared as better with other determines his or her final ranking. The number of possible pairs for a given number of employees is ascertained by the following formula, that is n into n minus 1 the whole divided by 2. And what the n stands for? It is the total number of employees to be evaluated. That the pairs so ascertained gives the maximum possible permutations and combinations. The number of times a worker is considered better makes his or her score. Such scores are determined for each worker and he or she is ranked according to his or her score. One disadvantage of this method is that the method can become unmanageable when large number of employees are being compared, as when the number of employees are more, it is very difficult to compare one with another. Grading method. In this method, certain categories of worth are established in advance and carefully defined. There can be three categories established for employees: outstanding, satisfactory, and unsatisfactory. There can be more than three grades. Employee performance is compared with grade definitions. The employee is then allocated to the grade that best describes his or her performance. Such type of grading is done in semester pattern of examinations and in the selection of a candidate in the public service sector. One of the major drawbacks of this method is that the rater may rate most of the employees on the higher side of their performance. The forced distribution method. Now, this is another traditional method of performance appraisal, of how to do performance appraisal. This method was evolved to eliminate the central tendency of rating most of the employees at a higher end or the lower end of the scale. Employees are placed between two extremes of good and bad job performances. The method assumes that employees' performance level conforms to a normal distribution, that is 10, 20, 40, or 20 and 10%. 10% are placed at the top level and are given outstanding merit. 20% are given good rating, 40% satisfactory or average, and 20% fair and 10% unsatisfactory. This type of method is useful for rating a larger number of employees. That when the number of employees are too much, we can use this kind of method. This method tends to eliminate or reduce bias. It is also highly simple to understand and easy to apply in appraising the performance of employees in organizations. So the major weakness of this method lies in the assumption that the employee performance levels always conform to a normal distribution. Now there is a graph of normal distribution pattern of forced distribution method. In this, we can see that 10% have been given poor, 20% below average, then 40% performance is rating average, then again 20% is good, and 10% is excellent. Now we shall be discussing about the next method, that is the forced choice method. In this method, the rater is given a series of statements about an employee. These statements are arranged in blocks of two or more, and the rater indicates which statement is most or least descriptive of the employee. A pair of positive statements and a pair of negative statements are there. In the pair of positive statements, there it gives good and clear instructions to the subordinates. Then it can be depended upon to complete any job assigned. In case of negative statements, can make promises beyond his limit to keep these, and it inclines to favor some employees. Each statement carries a score or weight. which is not made known to the rater. The human resource section does rating for all sets of statements, both positive and negative. The final rating is done on the basis of all sets of statements. Thus, employee rating in this manner makes the method more objective. In this method, the rater is forced to select statements which are ready-made. So we can see in this method that, as the name indicates, there is a choice that is forced. That is, the rater is forced to select statements which are prepared beforehand. And so one can say that this is a very big disadvantage of this method. Checklist method. The basic purpose of utilizing checklist method is to ease the evaluation burden upon the rater. In this method, a series of statements, that is, questions with their answers in yes or no, are prepared by the human resource department. The checklist is then presented to the rater to tick appropriate answers relevant to the rating. These questions are concerned with the employee behavior. Each question carries a weightage in relation to their importance. In this checklist method, when the checklist is completed, it is sent to the HR department to prepare the final scores for all ratees based on all questions. From a cost point of view, this method may be inefficient, particularly if there are a number of job categories in the organization, because a separate checklist of questions must be prepared for each category of job. It will involve a lot of money, time, and efforts. So finally, we can see that in checklist method, the major disadvantage is that it is difficult to assemble, analyze, and weigh a large number of statements about employee characteristics and contribution. So it is not much in use these days. Critical incidents method. This method, it has gained a lot of interest these days. In this method, the rater focuses his or her attention on those key or critical behaviors that make the difference between performing a job in a noteworthy manner, effectively or ineffectively. There are three steps involved in appraising employees using this method. First, a list of noteworthy, good or bad, on the job behavior of specific incidents is prepared. Second, a group of experts then assigns weightage or score to these incidents, depending upon their degree of desirability to perform a job. Third, finally, a checklist indicating incidents that describe workers as good or bad is constructed. Then, the checklist is given to the rater for evaluating the workers. The basic idea behind this rating is to appraise the workers who can perform their jobs effectively in critical situations. This is so because most people work alike in normal situations. The strength of critical incident method is that it focuses on behaviors and thus judge performance rather than personalities. Its drawbacks are that one has to regularly write down the critical incidents, which become very time consuming and burdensome for evaluators, that is, managers. Generally, negative incidents are more noticed than positive ones. It is raters' influence that determines which incidents are critical to job performance. Hence, the method is subject to all the limitations relating to subjective judgments. Demerits of critical incident method. So what are the disadvantages or demerits of critical incident method? Its major drawbacks are that one has to regularly write down the critical incidents, which become time consuming and burdensome for evaluators, that is the managers. Generally, negative incidents are more noticed than positive ones. It is rater's inference that determines which incidents are critical to job performance. Hence, the method is subject to all the limitations relating to subjective judgments. The graphic rating scale method. The graphic rating scale is one of the most popular and simplest techniques for appraising performance. It is also known as linear rating scale. In this method, the printed appraisal form is used to appraise each employee. The form lists traits like quality, reliability, and a range of job performance characteristics from unsatisfactory to outstanding. For each trait, the rating is done on the basis of points on the continuum. The common practice is to follow the 5 points scale. In the graphic rating scale method, the rater rates each appraisee by checking the score that best describes his or her performance for each trait, and all assigned values for the traits are then totaled. This method is good for measuring various job behaviors of an employee. However, it is also subjected to rater's bias while rating employees' behavior at job. Occurrence of ambiguity in designing the graphic scale results in bias in appraising the employee's performance. Till now, what we have discussed, we can see in this particular slide, that is, in the graphic rating scale, how the 5 points are used. First, we can see that the quantity of work, that is, the volume of work under normal working conditions. Then we can give ratings in unsatisfactory or fair or satisfactory or good or outstanding, as you all can see. Next is the quality of work, neatness, thoroughness, and accuracy of work, knowledge of job. For this, we can rate the particular employee. Third is the knowledge, that how much knowledge he is having, how much he is aware. A clear understanding of the factors connected with the job. Again, for this, you can rate them on the 5 point scale. Then comes the attitude, that what attitude he is having, his enthusiasm and cooperativeness on the job. After that comes the dependability, that is consciousness, thorough, reliable, accurate with respect to attendance, reliefs, lunch breaks, etc. In this again one can give the 5 point rating scale, as we can see, that is unsatisfactory, fair, satisfactory, good or outstanding. In the last point we can see the cooperation, how much he is cooperating, that is the willingness and ability to work with others to produce desired goals. In the same way we can rate on this. So this is a good method of rating or doing performance appraisal. The essay method. Essay method is the simplest one among various appraisal methods available. As you can see from the very name, that one has to write down a narrative description on an employee's strengths, weaknesses, past performance, potential, and suggestions for improvement. Most of us must have written essays in our lifetime when one was a student. So, in this case, also one has to write down a narrative description or a description of the employee's weaknesses and strengths. Its positive point or good point is that it is very simple in use. It does not require any complex formats, any other techniques, any extensive specific training to complete it. Further continuing with essay method. However, essay method, like other methods, is not free from drawbacks. We have seen previously also that each and every method has got its own advantages and disadvantages. So in this also, in the absence of any prescribed structure, the essays are likely to vary widely in terms of length and content. And of course, the quality of appraisal depends more upon rater's writing skill than the employee's actual level of performance. In this, we shall be telling you about what is the field review method. This is an appraisal by someone outside the rater's own department, usually someone from the corporate office or the HR department. The outsider reviews employees' records and holds interviews with the appraisee and his or her superior. This method is useful when comparable information is needed from employees in different units or locations. Now, what are the confidential reports? This is a very traditional method of appraising employees, mainly in the government departments. Most of us must have heard about it, CR, as we say it. In this, evaluation is made by the immediate boss or supervisor for giving effect to promotion and transfer. Usually, a structured format is devised to collect information on employees' strength, weakness, intelligence, attitude, character, attendance, discipline, etc. Overall grading can be given on a 5-point scale like outstanding, very good, good, average, and poor. The confidential reports, as the name suggests, are very confidential. They cannot be disclosed. Now we shall be discussing about the various modern methods of doing performance appraisal. Till now we have discussed about the traditional methods. The first of all is the assessment center method. An assessment center typically involves the use of methods like social informal events, tests and exercises, assignments being given to a group of employees to assess their competencies to take higher responsibilities in the future. Generally, employees are given an assignment similar to the job they would be expected to perform if promoted. The trained evaluators observe and evaluate employees as they perform the assigned jobs and are evaluated on job-related characteristics. The major competencies that are judged in assessment centers are the interpersonal skills of the employees, their intellectual capability, the planning and organizing capabilities, motivation, career orientation, etc. Assessment centers are also an effective way to determine the training and development needed of the targeted employees. The behaviorally anchored rating scales bars method, as it is quite known and quite popular these days. Behaviorally anchored rating scale bars is a relatively new technique which combines the graphic rating scale and critical incidence method. It consists of predetermined critical areas of job performance or sets of behavioral statements describing important job performance qualities as good or bad. For example, the qualities like interpersonal relationships, adaptability, reliability, job knowledge, etc. These statements are developed from critical incidents. In this method, an employee's job behavior is judged against the desired behavior by recording and comparing the behavior with bars. Developing and practicing bars require expert knowledge. The human resource accounting method. Human resources are valuable assets for every organization. Human resource accounting method tries to find the relative worth of these assets in the terms of money. In this method, the performance appraisal of the employee is judged in terms of cost and contribution of the employees. The cost of employees include all the expenses incurred on them like their compensation, recruitment and selection costs, induction and training costs, whereas their contribution includes the total value added, that is in monetary terms. The difference between the cost and contribution will be the performance of the employees. Ideally, the contribution of the employees should be greater than the cost incurred on them. 360-degree performance appraisal. You all must have heard about this method. This is a very popular method. 360-degree feedback is also known as multi-rater feedback. It is the most comprehensive appraisal where the feedback about the employee's performance comes from all the sources that come in contact with the employees on his job. 360-degree performance appraisal. In this method, 360-degree respondents for an employee can be his peers, manager, that is his superior, subordinates, team members, customers, suppliers, vendors, anyone who comes into contact with the employee and can provide valuable insights and information or feedback regarding the on-the-job performance of the employee. So in a circle, 360, as you can understand, all those persons who come in his contact. 360-degree performance appraisal has four integral components, that is self-appraisal, superior appraisal, subordinate appraisal, and peer appraisal. 360-degree performance appraisal. Self-appraisal gives a chance to the employee to look at his strengths and weaknesses, his achievements, and judge his own performance. Superior's appraisal forms the traditional part of the 360-degree appraisal, where the employee's responsibilities and actual performance is rated by the superior. Subordinates appraisal gives a chance to judge the employee on the parameters like communication and motivating ability, superior's ability to delegate the work, leadership qualities, etc. Also known as internal customers, the correct feedback given by peers can help to find employees' abilities to work in a team, cooperation, and sensitivity towards others. 360-degree performance appraisal. The self-assessment is an indispensable part of 360-degree appraisals, and therefore 360-degree performance appraisal has high employee involvement and also has the strongest impact on behavior and performance. It provides a 360-degree review of the employee's performance and is considered to be one of the most credible performance appraisal methods. 360-degree performance appraisal is also a powerful developmental tool because when conducted at regular intervals, it helps to keep a track of the changes of others' perceptions about the employees. A 360-degree appraisal is generally found more suitable for the managers as it helps to assess their leadership and managing styles. This technique is being effectively used across the globe for performance appraisals. Some of the organizations following it are Wipro, Infosys, and Reliance Industries. Management by objectives, that is MBO. The concept of management by objectives was first given by Peter Drucker in 1954. It can be defined as a process whereby the employees and the superiors they come together to identify some common tasks. The employees set their goals to be achieved, the standards to be taken as the criteria for measurement of their performance and contribution, and deciding the course of action to be followed. Management by objectives is the essence is participative goal setting, choosing course of actions and decision making. An important part of MBO is the measurement and the comparison of the employee's actual performance with the standards set. Ideally, when employees themselves have been evolved with the goal setting and choosing the course of action to be followed by them, they are more likely to fulfill their responsibilities. In this process of MBO, the principle behind this is to create empowered employees who have clarity of their roles and responsibilities expected from them, understand their objectives to be achieved, and thus help in the achievement of organizational as well as personal goals. Some of the important features and advantages of MBO are clarity of goals. With MBO came the concept of SMART goals, that is, goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. The goals thus set are clear, motivating, and there is a linkage between organization goals and performance targets of the employees. The focus is on future rather than on past. Goals and standards are set for the performance for the future with periodic review and feedback. Involving employees in the whole process of goal setting and increasing employee empowerment enhances employee job satisfaction and commitment. Drawbacks of appraisal techniques. The superior plays dual and conflicting role of both the judge and the helper. Too many objectives often cause confusion. The supervisor feels that subordinate appraisal is not rewarding. A considerable time gap exists between two appraisal programs. The skills required for daily administration and employee development are in conflict. There are further some drawbacks like poor communication keeps employees in the dark about what is expected of them. There is a difference of opinion between a supervisor and a subordinate in regard to the latter's performance. The feedback and appraisal is generally unpleasant for both supervisor and subordinate. Unwillingness on the part of supervisors to tell employees plainly how to improve their performance. So students, let us now summarize what we have learned in this module. Performance appraisal refers to the assessment of an employee's actual performance, behavior on job, and his or her potential for future performance. Numerous methods have been designed to appraise the performance of the employee. As we have already seen in the module, then some of the traditional methods and some are modern methods of appraisal. While traditional methods, they lay emphasis on the rating of the individual's personality traits such as initiative, dependability, drive, creativity, integrity, intelligence, leadership, and potential, etc. Whereas the modern methods, they place more emphasis on the evaluation of the work results, that is, job achievements rather than personal traits. Modern methods tend to be more objective and worthwhile. 360-degree appraisal, it can provide valuable insights on information or feedback regarding the on-the-job performance of the employee by anyone who comes into contact with him or her. They can be peers, superiors, subordinates, team members, customers, suppliers, vendors, etc. Management by objective process is to create empowered employees who have clarity of the roles and responsibilities expected from them. They understand their objectives to be achieved and thus help in the achievement of organizational as well as personal goals. Thank you.